video is to go over the key ideas and practices of the Buddhist faith. So, how was Buddhism founded? Buddhism is our second religion to come out of India. It was actually founded by we do have a singular founder this time. It was founded by a man named Siddhartha Gautama. He was born in northeastern India, right along the Mediterranean. So overall, about 7% of the world's population today is Buddhist. The majority of those people live on the continent of Asia. However, there are growing numbers of Buddhists throughout the world. So Buddhism starts with the founding by a man named Siddhartha Gautama. Siddhartha Gautama was a prince, a Hindu prince, born in India, and he had lived a very sheltered life. His parents had sheltered him from the fact that there were people who didn't necessarily have the very blessed life he did. Once he became of age and he began to see that not everyone had lived the way he did, that there was in fact suffering throughout the world, he decided to give up his wealth in order to search for the meaning of that human suffering in order to end it. And he tried a variety of things. And ultimately, after many months of searching, Siddhartha Gautama, while meditating under a fig tree or a Bodhi tree, the answer came to him on how to end human suffering. At that moment, he became known as the Buddha, which means enlightened one. So that's why this is called Buddhism. So some basic info. Buddhism originally develops in India, but then spreads throughout and actually becomes even more popular in places like China. So although it begins here in northeastern India, it does spread due largely to trade and becomes extremely popular in both China, Korea, and in Japan. So the central philosophy of Buddhism, or basically when the Buddha realized how to end human suffering, this is the moment of enlightenment. This is what he realized, that there are four main truths or four noble truths. And the first one is that all life is suffering, that every human suffers, and that suffering is caused by desire. And that they don't necessarily have to be selfish desires. It could be very warranted desires. The desire to see a loved one that you had lost, the desire to have your youth back, or the desire to feel well if you don't feel good. So the way to eliminate suffering is if you eliminate your desire. That is by no means an easy task, to not desire anything. But what he stated in his last and final truth was that if you follow the Eightfold Path or the middle way, it will help you overcome desire, which is the goal of Buddhists, I'm sorry. So Buddhists believe that your livelihood should be about following the Eightfold Path. And that the Eightfold Path is basically how one lives, your actions, how you conduct yourself, what your intentions are. And we would call that a Buddhist Dharma. Buddhists do believe in Dharma and karma, similar to Hindus. And they also do believe in the idea of reincarnation. Remember, Siddhartha Gautama was raised as a Hindu prince. So there are going to be a lot of aspects that we see that are similar to Hinduism. So Buddhists believe that their dharma is that Eightfold Path, how they should live their lives, or their right action or duty, and that action that they take in their life will impact their karma, right? That every action in this life, there is a reaction or consequence in your future lives, and that impacts. That's the idea of reincarnation. That once you die in this life, your soul will be reborn into a new body. So the ultimate goal of a Buddhist is to reach a state of nirvana. And by following the Eightfold Path, one can achieve that. So that Eightfold Path means that, right mindfulness, right intentions, right speech, right action, right livelihood. Does the way you conduct your life respect lives in general? So what would that look like in today's world? So if we look at what the Eightfold Path might look like for a Buddhist in everyday life, they would be reflective in asking themselves some of these questions. For right speech, am I saying anything behind people's backs that I would not say to their faces? Right mindfulness, am I fully aware of the present moment? Right concentration, am I focusing on the right things? These are examples of how Buddhists might reflect in their daily practices to ensure that they are following that Eightfold Path. So, as I had stated, nirvana is the ultimate goal for a Buddhist. And what nirvana means is that you have freed yourself from the cycle of death and rebirth and have become one with the universe. It sounds very similar to the Hindu concept of moksha. So, when we're talking about it, it's this idea of true enlightenment, that moment like Siddhartha Gautama became the Buddhist when you have achieved union with the universe. You have released yourself from all desire. Not this nirvana, cool band, not the same thing. So there are sacred books for the Buddhist faith that are known as the Tripitaka. They are rules for Buddhist monks to follow. As well, the text contains sermons and discussions of how Buddhists should live their lives and ideas on beliefs. So Buddhism and Hinduism do have a fair amount in common, as we had previously stated. The ideas of karma, dharma, and reincarnation are something that both Hindus and Buddhists believe. That dharma might be a little different. In Buddhism, it comes from the Eightfold Path, the actions that you are to take in your life. You look to the Eightfold Path for that. And in Hinduism, your dharma comes from your varna, but the idea of karma is the same. The idea that the actions that you take in this life impact your next life. And that is a part of reincarnation, that the soul is reborn. Buddhists do not agree with Hindus on a couple of things, though. They do not accept nor pray to the Hindu gods. Actually, Buddha himself is not a deity. The original form of Buddhism, there was no God. However, as Buddhism evolves and changes in the places that it spreads to, these ideas will shift. The caste system is another idea that Buddhists do not believe in. The caste system was that social structure that was created using ideas of Hinduism. Buddhists reject that, as they believe it causes suffering because one desires to move up the caste system. Right? So Buddhism spreads throughout Asia, mostly due to trade, right? It starts in northeastern India and spreads during Siddhartha Gautama's life throughout the Indian peninsula, and also spreads along trade routes. Specifically, one that it spread a lot on would be the Silk Roads. And it spreads and becomes quite popular in China. It spreads to Korea, and then Korea spreads those ideas to Japan. So we can see aspects of the cultural importance of Buddhism as it spread. So this is an example of a Buddha statue in China. And here is another statue of a Japanese Buddha. So the purpose of me showing you these images is to show you that as Buddhism traveled along the trade routes, it adapted and shifted to meet the cultures of the different societies that practice the faith. So, as you go through, we're asking you to do some review as to which religions